Good afternoon, guys. Today, actually, early in the morning, we had our flight from Kayseri Airport to Izmir, and so we checked in Hotel DoubleTree. I think 2:15 a.m. and 9 o'clock we had a breakfast, and around 11ish we left Izmir to Bergama, the Ancient City, so which is right in front of me right now. The drive was about 2 hours almost. The city traffic. I mean, there was nothing to show on the road, so I did not turn on the camera. So everything looks okay so far. Yeah, we also picked up the car from Hertz as well from the airport, and the process was also kind of easy too. So we're gonna make a left here. Traffic is not a little more heavier because it's like every other city. So I'm not sure, but I think after Istanbul, Izmir is a big city, and this place is about 2 hours, around 100 some kilometer.
Turn right onto Königstraße.
Turn right. So I'm gonna hand over to Sean. There you go, big Sean.
In 200 meters, turn left to stay on Königstraße.
This is busy city. I mean, people are double parking. You can see it by yourself. Not easy to find parking here.
Take the second left to stay on Königstraße, then continue straight to stay on Königstraße.
Left from here. Next one, right?
Turn left onto Königstraße.
Are we going right, Sonny?
300 meters, continue straight onto Saint-Paul Socket.
Nobody's going there. Are we going right, Sonny? We have a chairlift too, right?
Continue straight onto Saint-Paul Socket.
Expected chairlift. Which side? To the right or left?
Sharp right on the Saint-Paul Socket.
Do you park here and take those chairlift? Huh? There's no one here. Do you see anybody? Is this place is closed? Do you see any entrance, anything? So guys, the cheap. So they do have a sign for parking and the price, and That's a lake, beautiful lake. I don't know the name of it. To the right, car is coming. Nice lake, nice water. What they have in the middle? Those little rings, I don't know. The GPS says we already have arrived, but there's a no. We think we have arrived. Parking. Is there any shade? One, two, three, four, five, six, and our will be the 7th car. So far, there was somebody sitting in a car, and I asked them if they speak English. So they said no. Parking was, the price was written. So far, there's no one here, so we can ask. This place like deserted. No one is here. Chairlift is stopping right now, so it's not moving. There are shops, but I don't see anyone here. Oh, there are a couple of people there. So, thank you. 60 lira per person, and yeah, and then we are getting
300 and plus 40 lira.
Yeah, we are getting a cell phone, a guide kind of thing. So. Cat is still sleeping. He doesn't care. It's a siesta time. Siesta in Spanish is like after lunch break, 2 hours. Oh, okay, go back to sleep, Yanni. It's like Big Sean sitting in a car, right? He wakes up, he goes to sleep. He wakes up, he goes to sleep.
Welcome to the Acropolis of the ancient city of Pergamon. Archaeological excavations here have resulted in spectacular discoveries for more than a century. Pergamon was one of the most important and beautiful cities of Greek Hellenistic times, a radiant and magnificent metropolis. Even in antiquity, the city was world famous for its artistic structures, especially for the Great Altar of Pergamon, the frieze slabs of which are today found in the Pergamon Museum in Berlin. The fortress was once located here, where you can still see the remains of the city wall. There was a walled city up here even in the 7th century BC. However, it was not until the Hellenistic era, in the 3rd century BC, that Pergamon rose to become the capital city of a gigantic empire, which encompassed large parts of present-day Turkey. The kings of Pergamon, called Attalids after their ancestor Attalus, became one of the most powerful dynasties of the Hellenistic world. Strong ramparts protected the fortress with its palaces and sacred sites. It was built of andesite, a volcanic rock present in large quantities in the region. The garrison of the Gate Watch was located directly adjacent to the strongly secured fortress gate. From here, a steep road led to the uppermost peak of the mountain. Two rulers stand out especially among the Attalids. You will encounter them again and again throughout this tour. Attalus I and his son Eumenes II. Attalus was victorious over the Gauls and assumed the title of king in 229 BC. His son and successor, Eumenes II, reigned for nearly 40 years. Under him, the kingdom of Pergamon experienced its golden age. He transformed the city into a Hellenistic metropolis with an ambitious building program, including the Great Altar of Pergamon. The Sanctuary of Trajan, the so-called Trajaneum, was erected on the uppermost hilltop of the fortress in an imposing location during the Roman era in the 2nd century AD. The location was ideal. The temple was quite visible from a distance and dominated the entire cityscape, in keeping with the intentions of the Roman Empire. As we know from the inscription, it was dedicated to Zeus, Jupiter in Latin, as well as to the emperors Trajan and Hadrian. The structure was started under Trajan around 113 AD and completed by his successor Hadrian. It was probably consecrated in 129 AD, when Hadrian visited Pergamon during his tour of Asia Minor. The temple was approximately 18 meters high and built completely of marble. It was surrounded by Corinthian columns. A marble sacrificial altar stood in front of the temple, facing the valley. From there, stairs led up to the sanctuary. The Trajaneum was magnificently decorated with marble, some parts of which can still be seen, like the frieze with Medusa heads above spiral volutes. In addition to Zeus, Trajan and Hadrian were also worshipped here. The emperor cult played an important role in the Roman Empire, and cities competed to decide which would be home to the temple for the imperial cult. Pergamon's strongest competitors in Asia Minor were the cities of Smyrna and Ephesus. A larger-than-life marble statue of an emperor was found in the Trajaneum, a copy of which you can see here. The original is located in the Museum of Bergama. Because the head is missing, we don't know whether the statue is really of Trajan, or perhaps his successor Hadrian instead. The emperor is represented as a military commander. He's wearing muscle armor with long leather strips hanging down. The cape, representing a military commander, is draped over his shoulders. The armor is decorated with reliefs showing 2 winged griffins and a Medusa head or medallion above them. The representation in the garb of a military commander was a symbol of the superiority of the Roman Empire and emphasized the claim to power of the emperor. This statue also gives an impression of how the 2 colossal images of Trajan and Hadrian must have looked when they once stood together in the cella, the inner main room of the sanctuary. Their armored statues were nearly 5 meters in height and held lances or swords. The cult statue of Zeus, seated on a throne, was found between them. Besides the 2 colossal portraits of the emperors, other marble pieces were discovered. These allow an approximate reconstruction of the 3 cult statues. The fragments of the emperor statues are today found in the Pergamon Museum in Berlin, and those of the Zeus statue in the Museum of Bergama. If you return to the temple square, you can find out more about the reconstructed North Hall of the sanctuary. From the peak of the Acropolis, there is a unique view of the landscape of Pergamon and the fertile plain of the river Caicus, extending to the Mediterranean, which can be seen on clear days.
Huh?
The Caicus linked Pergamon with the port city of Elaia, approximately 30 kilometers away. It had been the commercial and naval base of the Attalid dynasty since the 3rd century BC. To the right and left of the Acropolis, 2 smaller rivers flow from the mountains to the plain, the Bergama and the Kestel. In ancient times, the Roman lower city, today entirely covered by modern Bergama, lay between these 2 rivers. It was constructed at the same time as the Trajaneum in the 2nd century AD. The street grid of the Roman lower city was oriented entirely to the axis of the sanctuary of Trajan up on the Acropolis. The new large Roman structures like the circus and the large temple to the Egyptian gods, the so-called Red Basilica, were fitted into the regular street grid. This urban planning once again demonstrates the great importance the Trajaneum once possessed.
Isn't that amazing, Sean?
It is. I'm not sure what they were used for. They all blocked off these small entrances. I don't know if these are like caves that go anywhere else.
Oh, those are not caves, those are room built really nice and high purpose. another room. It has the 2 doors back there. This room has one more door. I don't know where that door leads to. They are closed. Same thing. This one has 2 doors.
In order to make room for the construction of the Trajaneum on the uppermost mountain peak, the grounds were expanded to an area of 65 by 70 meters. To this end, strong structures were erected on the steep slope, designed to support the platform of the sanctuary. These support structures extend at their lowest point nearly 25 meters down the slope. They consist of high and long vaults built in parallel in Roman concrete, a precursor of modern concrete. The vaults were then filled to almost half their height in earth and equipped with door openings. They were connected to one another by a long corridor. This connecting corridor was only for inspections because the rooms were not meant to be used.
Oh, that's the room.
The vaults were closed with a retaining wall
stair.
with arched windows.
Coming
This
back up,
wall, up to
once you get the
23
picture.
meters high, was also
think so.
constructed using
wanna do
Roman
that.
concrete and has stood here on the mountainside since it was built almost 2,000 years ago. Walking through the row of vaults as a modern visitor, you can see the massive scale of these supporting structures. They were a magnificent structural achievement. At the other end of the vaulted structures, you will find the sanctuary of Athena, the city goddess of Pergamon. Ancient theatre visitors had a magnificent view from up here, with unique natural scenery. Like all Greek theatres, the theatre of Pergamon was built into a slope and held around 10,000 spectators. The tragedies and comedies of the Greek poets were performed here, and public meetings were also held. The
Okay.
auditorium consisted of 3 circles with approximately 80 rows of seating. The seats were for the most part carved directly into the rock. The performances took place in the small central area below, the so-called orchestra. Behind this was a stage building, the skene, with painted backgrounds and doors through which the actors appeared.
Arsenal, this side. So I think that was a top minar. In Florida, if you go to St. Augustine, but this is much older. Probably to see if there's any army coming or protect themselves. Well, your guess is good as mine too.
Here you can see some larger wall remains. The famous Library of the Kings of Pergamon was presumably located here in the pillared hall of the Sanctuary of Athena. It was the second largest library of the ancient world, after that of Alexandria in Egypt. Ancient sources claim it once contained 200,000 scrolls.
Wow.
The colossal marble statue of Athena Parthenos, the Virgin, a copy of the famous cult statue from the Acropolis in Athens, once stood in the large main hall. Athena was not only the goddess of warfare, but also of wisdom, art, and science. Her statue was meant to express the Pergamenian rulers' admiration of the art and culture of Athens. The Attalids wanted to transform Pergamon into a second Athens, and therefore gathered important scholars, poets, and scientists to their royal court. According to ancient tradition, Pergamon was also home to a royal art collection containing statues and paintings by the most famous masters. These were also kept in this area, as indicated by sculptures and the inscriptions of artists found here. However, the Sanctuary of Athena was primarily the most important cult site of the city. Here was located the splendid Sanctuary of Athena, the goddess of the city, the impressive center of the city. Today, all that is left is the foundation of the temple at the front of the terrace, and next to it the round base of a victory monument of Attalus I. To the side are sections of the pillared halls that surrounded the temple square. Some of the paving of andesite slabs is still in its original location. The Athena temple is the oldest preserved temple of Pergamon and originates from the 4th century BC. During the Hellenistic period, the sanctuary was expanded and decorated with numerous votive offerings. King Eumenes II, the builder of Palace 5, had the pillared halls built, but these do not run parallel with the temple. Instead, they are oriented to his new palace on the other side of the street. Like all structures built under Eumenes, they were made of precious marble. He also endowed a richly decorated entrance gate to the sanctuary and dedicated it to Athena. The Greek inscription above the entrance can be translated as King Eumenes, for the bringer of victory, Athena. You can still see an entablature block in front of the gate with a beautiful garland frieze, eagles and bulls' heads in this area. The most important votive offerings and victory monuments of the city were also exhibited in the sanctuary.
Alright guys, so we just finished exploring the village and now we're on our way down the ancient ruins. I'm telling you, this is super high up, and with the amount of heat that there was today and walking around with those stones, I definitely want to jump in that lake now. Was it really? It was 106 degrees Fahrenheit. We just wanted to show you guys how steep it is, how dangerous it could be.
Roller coaster ride. Ew.
The worst part about this is that there could be cars coming up too, so when you get stuck up here, there's not much of a way back.
Here we go. Oh,
Just like I said, right on cue.
Yeah, and let's see.
Sanjay Pasamonde. What's Sanjay?
Right.
All right.